Good morning, boys. Welcome to the online classes of history. Welcome to the new academic year. Wish you all the best for the new session and wish you all the best for all these classes that are going to be taken online. You all know that we have the two parts in your history civics syllabus, that is part A and part B. In part A you have civics and in part B you have history. We start with part A and we start with the first chapter of civics that is titled as Union Legislature. In class 9, if you remember, we had studied about indirect elections and direct elections. Indirect elections meant that we had the citizens of India elect the representatives and the representatives further on elect the members to the Raj Sabha, as well as to elect the some of the dignitaries or people or the executive heads as we have studied. In the direct elections, we study about the elections where the people vote for the representatives. They are called as members of parliament. The people who are above the age of 18 have the right to vote, and this is called as direct elections. In this chapter, we study about these two houses, Raj Sabha and Lok Sabha. Raj Sabha is termed as the Council of States and Lok Sabha is termed as the House of the People. But before we go into details of these two houses, first we should know where and what types of wings do we have in our system or in the government. The wings of government. If you follow page number 2 of your book, you will see that it is mentioned in the book as wings of government. The wings of government means there are three wings of government: the legislature, the executive and the judiciary. Legislature is the law-making wing, executive is the governing wing and judiciary is the wing that dispenses justice. But in this chapter we only talk about the first wing, and that is the legislature, the law-making wing. Further on, if you look at page number 3 in your book, it states that federal setup in India. We have two types of features in our country. One is federal setup and the other one is unitary feature. So first we do the federal setup in India. In ICSE, many times it has been asked, mention any two or mention any one feature of the federal setup in India. So if you want, you can note down this question also while I am teaching. Please note down, mention one or two features of the federal setup of India. So there are many features given in the book, around 6 to 8 features have been given, but you can learn only two features because this has never been asked in ICSE as a subjective question. And the two features can be, first is that the government has two levels, or there are two levels of government in the country. One is the union government and the other is the state government. So you can write in a simple way like union and state or central and state. This is the way you can answer in your ICSE paper or ICSE exam. And the two levels of government will govern the same citizens, whether they are in the states or whether they are in the center. Another important feature is that the constitution must guarantee or must mention or provide the powers and duties of these two levels of government. And the amendments to the constitution cannot be made by the state level. You should always remember that the amendments, the simple meaning of amendments is the changes that can be brought in the constitution, whether there are some provisions which need a simple procedure or there are some provisions in the constitution which need a difficult procedure. But both types of amendments have to be initiated by the union government or union legislature in the right sense, but approved by more than 50% of the state legislature in case there needs to be an amendment. They both have, the two levels of government have separate jurisdiction, and there can be conflicts between the two levels over certain issues regarding any water dispute or river dispute, and there we have the judiciary coming in and solving these conflicts. And there is also power sharing of government regarding the revenues of the country. The states also have their power to raise revenue through their organizations or through their bodies or their autonomous sources of revenue. So these are the 6 or 7 features of federal setup, and out of these 6 or 7 features you can select any 2 of your choice which you find are easy, and you can learn them for your boards. There are 3 levels of government in India. There is the central government, state government, and the local government, as you can call it, local government in the districts or in the villages, where you have municipal corporations which you studied in class 9, and panchayats or gram sabha or gram panchayat or panchayat samitis in the rural India. Let us come to page number 4 of the book, and we have 3 types of lists mentioned there. If you look at union list, state list, and concurrent list. The union list mentions about items which are dealt or subjects which are dealt by the central government. These are subjects where the central government can make laws. For example, you have defense, you have finance, railways, and banking. Then you have the state list, where the state can legislate on certain items or certain subjects. For example, education, forests, trade, unions, etc. And there is a third list that is called as the concurrent list, which is dealt by both the governments, by the state as well as by the union legislature or governments. And if there is any conflict arising over the laws that are passed on certain subjects in the concurrent list, it is always the union government that has an upper hand, or the laws passed by the union government prevails, because it is more powerful and it has more authority over the lists. So these are the 3 types of lists. And there is another list which is called as residuary list, or you can call it as residuary powers of the union legislature or the parliament. The residuary powers are mentioning you about the subjects or the items which are not mentioned in the 3 lists, that is the union list, the state list, and the concurrent list. So I hope you have understood what are the 3 types of list: union, state, and concurrent. Union is dealt by union government, state list subjects are dealt by the state government, and concurrent list is dealt by both the government, but the union government's laws prevail over the state government laws if there is any conflict passed by both the governments over the concurrent list. Then come down to next heading, that is unitary features. We've just done the federal features, we've done the 3 lists, and now we come to the unitary features, which says that when does the parliament, or when does our country have or has a unitary character. So the first point that is given in the book is a strong center is a unitary feature of the government. We have a very strong center, a central government, and that is one unitary feature of the government. We have the division of powers through the lists. We have 97 subjects in the union list. We have 67 items of state and 47 in the concurrent list. Both governments, the state government and the union government, both legislate on these laws or on these lists or subjects. But it's always seen that the union legislature has an overriding position in the concurrent list, which I have already explained to you earlier, that if there is a conflict between the two governments over any subject or over any law passed over on any subject in the concurrent list, it is always the union government which has an upper hand, and the laws passed by the union government always prevails. Then we have a single and unified constitution for both, for the center, for the entire country as well as for the state. There is no separate constitution for states and separate for the entire country, except for the state of Jammu and Kashmir, which had its own constitution earlier, but now the removal of the article number 370, the central government has become again very strong regarding Jammu and Kashmir. We have already studied that the parliament can initiate the amendments to the constitution, and it has to be ratified or endorsed by 50% of the state legislature, or in the houses 2/3 members have to be present and voting for an amendment which needs a difficult procedure, or when there is a simple procedure or simple provision, then there is a simple provision required for an amendment. And also that our constitution does not give equal representation to all the states. It means that the population of the state, that word population, that key word is population, that decides how many members each state will elect and send to the union legislature, whether it is the Raj Sabha or whether it is the Lok Sabha. The population decides. For example, if you have your own state, you should be proud of your state that it is so much populated and it sends the maximum number to the Lok Sabha. It's around 80 members, whereas there is Mizoram and other states which send only one member. Why? Because they are least populated. So I hope you've understood the point. What does the word population mean here, and what is its significance regarding sending of representation to both the houses? Now comes the word parliament. The Indian parliament consists of the president and the two houses, the Lok Sabha and the Raj Sabha. I have already told you, the Lok Sabha is the house of the people and the Raj Sabha is the council of states. That is on page number 5. Let's come to the topic Lok Sabha. The Lok Sabha is called the house of the people. Why? Because it is the people of India who are electing the members of the Lok Sabha. And who are those people? The adult citizens. Who are those adult citizens? The citizens who have acquired the age of 18. They are above the age of 18. They have the right to vote. That's called as universal adult franchise. Universal means for everybody. Adult means above the age of 18, and franchise means to vote. Now we come to the word or to the heading composition of the Lok Sabha. In that you have a few points. If you want, you can mark those points or note down those points as I am teaching. The first point that you can write for composition is it's the house of the people and it's directly elected house. That is universal adult franchise. The people of India above the age of 18 vote. The second is the Lok Sabha has a maximum strength of 545 or 552. You can write both the numbers. The council will accept one of these. Till now it is having 545 members. The next point is that the President of India nominates 2 members from the Anglo-Indian community if he finds that this community is not adequately represented in the Lok Sabha. It finds that there is no sufficient representation of this community, so the President nominates 2 members from this community. The next step that we have in the composition is the polling. We have the elections. And how do we have elections? We have constituencies created by the Election Commission. What is the meaning or what is the definition of the word constituency? You can write it down if you want. A very simple answer: area fixed for elections. That is the simplest answer that you can write for the word constituency. And we have our country divided into parliamentary constituencies. So if you look at the maximum strength, you have 545. So you minus 2 and you will come out with 543 as parliamentary constituencies. So that is the definition of the word constituency. And we already have studied as to how many members the Lok Sabha sends and how many the other small states send. So that defines or tells you that how many constituencies will be there in a particular state. Let's come to page number 6, and we have a heading as reservation of seats. So we have certain constituencies which are reserved. They are reserved for scheduled caste. They are reserved for scheduled tribes. So we have 84 seats reserved for scheduled caste and 47 seats reserved for scheduled tribes. Remember boys, the candidates will be from this category, but the voters will be general. Term. If you're asked in the council exam or you're asked that what is the normal term of the Lok Sabha, you have to just write 5-year term. Not more than that. Nothing else is required. Only 5 years. That is your answer. A situation may arise that the party which forms the government in the Lok Sabha loses its majority. Like if 545 is the strength and more than 50% one party acquires, or the MPs elected from a particular party is more than 50%, then that party forms the government. But unfortunately, if that party loses its majority due to some reasons, then the President of India can dissolve the Lok Sabha and ask for fresh elections, or can have another option if he finds that there is another party which can build up a majority and form a government.